Fusion came in because we were actually having challenges with our old accounting firm. There was a couple things happening. So we moved from New York to Atlanta. So there was a geography situation, and Fusion at that time was in Atlanta. I know now they're like national, but at that time they were in Atlanta, so they're close by, and I could go and meet them. And I think we were just not happy with like the answers, and if we were questioning something, like explaining us how we would do it right, or kind of give us a strategy, and instead of like almost like just fixing it, I would want to know some science behind what we're doing here. And I think Fusion did a good job of that. And then also kind of put some systems in place, which our old accountant wouldn't have. We would just hand him everything at the end of the year, and he would have to figure it all out. And he'd ask us a little bit here and there, but I think there's like quarterly systems. There's, different points throughout the year that we work with that kind of help us stay on track. And then that led us to Traction to help organize further, to go from, hey, we're just doing business, but now we're doing business with some intent. And, technically before Traction, we were never running meetings with agendas. We were just meeting to talk
I
about
don't
whatever.
know that we were really meeting, to be honest. I think we were just like surviving, thriving, meeting payroll, and then bam, next.
There's not kind of clarity. It also creates friction amongst us because we're a couple. So like, we have to see each other after work too. So it's funny. Sometimes I wouldn't mind working with her, but maybe in separate rooms. So to kind of keep some separation. But I think when we're working in the same room together, it could still cause some friction. But they helped alleviate a lot of that stuff too.
And I will say the whole Traction thing with Fusion really is a very recent thing. And even just a lot of these systems that went into place is also fairly recent. We have now been with Trevor and Fusion for almost a decade. And I think they have seen our rise and falls and plateaus multiple times over and then some. And what started out as a necessity to have someone in person, an accountant in person who would hold us at our highest standard and vice versa, turned very quickly into like, oh crap, there's a lot of systems that just aren't existing. And in order to like have the very best practice in place for him, me, any of our future staff in our company, it's like a necessity that we can't escape from, more than the tax component.
So this keeps you on target, because I know whatever happens on that Tuesday call, I still got to explain why I didn't hit this, or I didn't do this, or if I did do it, then we take it off the list. But like, it holds me accountable to my own team, to myself, to my company, and then it holds everybody else accountable, and also it gives me a good bird's eye view of what everybody's doing, because I'm really good at what I'm doing, and I'm really focused at what I'm doing, but I don't have time sometimes to focus on everybody else. And that one quick meeting once a week, the L10, gives me an idea of like, hey, this is where they're at on their KPIs and whatnot. Yeah, so we started with like tax preparation and kind of just cleaning up and making sure everything's good on our accounting side. And then so Trevor, and Fusion, we met through an entrepreneurship organization called EO, and that's how we became friends and also got introduced to each other. And one of the things with EO and Fusion is like try to be better the next day. How do you become better the next day as an organization and as well as just a person? So that's why there's a kind of a thirst for, all right, what do we do next that makes this better and make this better next, and that's how we got to Traction. It's funny, I read Traction and I was like, I think we're too small for this, as the first thing I thought of when I read it. And that was before talking to Trevor about it. And then it kind of popped up 3 or 4 times over some more time. And then one of the things, since, I was doing most of the work with ABBA, it was just us for a while, and then we added one teammate. Then before we added the second one, that's when we thought of, before we start adding more people, Traction might be a great, place to implement here before it gets too late. And that's kind of how Traction took, place. And then the newest thing was we actually went on a retreat with Trevor and Fusion and Danielle and Abba and myself. We were all together in a room, and we spent like the whole entire day kind of dissecting where we are, where we want to go. It helped clarify some visions too of like, what do we really want out of this? Because sometimes people just do motions to do motions, and they don't, you don't really realize what you want out of the end result here. So that was good. And I actually look forward to doing that
I
annually.
will point out with Traction, I think the biggest thing for us, as I mentioned, we started implementing Traction Q1 of 2024, and we're almost our second year down. We started out with just the three of us, and the company has grown now to almost 9
Yeah,
of
I
us
think
now.
about 9. Yeah.
9 of us. And not going to lie, every payroll period is very stressful to be like, oh crap, you know. But I think when you kind of like what he said, bird's eye view, when you sit back and you really slow down and just like look at what everyone else is bringing in and offering, and use these principles and systems in place and trusted your gut in creating something out of nothing, it is quite commendable for sure. I work very closely with Steven on the team. He is like our go-to tax person on their team. And he is a very, there's like a lot of like strategies he has in place. He has like a lot of good like numerical system documents that he shares either weekly, monthly, quarterly. And I thrive off of that because my goal in the company is both personal and because they do our personal taxes and our business taxes is to collect all the data, collect all the documents, provide and return. I can't tell you if we ever had that. And we used to rely on our old school accountants back in New York on just like, hey, things are due. We probably already surpassed the deadline. Just give us what you got. Versus now I know that like, hey, come summer, Steven's going to want XYZ until he gives me the final like breakdown. I'm going to work off of last year's template, or come August or come October. So I think that their constant drive on providing a document or like a checklist, or their organizers, is making our life so much easier on a, day by day, week by week, month by month basis. And then I know for Amit, like when we do these big Tuesday calls and our big L10 calls, when we have to do our accountant number review quarterly or monthly, is always fun to watch because I think he gives us report cards on the team, but then it's his turn to receive a report card.
A savings that they created
Yeah.
for us, which was we hired an ad agency out of New York. That was really great, actually. They worked awesome. It was just incredibly expensive. And 1/5 the cost of that ad agency, which was only working on our company. Fusion had recommended hiring somebody from South Africa offshore. And so they did the recruiting for us, and they set that all up for us. So we went through them, we interviewed a bunch of people, and then we found the perfect fit, who not only does the marketing for our like specific one company brand, but a few other ones that we own that are kind of underneath that umbrella. So the value is probably like almost 10x of what what we're saving there. In addition to having this person who is just like our local staff, we consider and treat like family. We're actually flying him out this year to come from South Africa to hang out with us for a week and just see, what he's been working on. So it's amazing. And that was a suggestion by Fusion.
Think the concept of like having these uncomfortable conversations that are around finances, that are around, potentially one of us might not be here tomorrow. What happens then, right? Like, who is truly on your team? Who is that like 5-finger person you contact? Those conversations definitely allowed us to be as open, as vulnerable as possible, I think, so that we could better prepare ourselves in this coming year.
But business is very clear. I was doing like a lot of things in my head. I was like, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And then I think, I don't know how they went down this questionnaire basically of like drilling down to like, what's the one most
During the
important,
retreat?
most important thing you need to be working on your business. And it was like the aha moment. I'm like, this is what made our company successful in the first place. And we're doing everything but focusing on that. And it was silly because we are so in the trenches, we don't see from the outside. And it was like, all right, that's literally the one key thing we need to work on. We went back and I see it. I mean, tomorrow and today, I have a full calendar of exactly those type of meetings I need. And it was because of that one meeting. So like, I was just doing too many things. And sometimes we do that. Like, it's kind of like a chef adding and trying different recipes when you already got the recipe that's the Michelin star recipe to win. So don't change that, and sometimes, we get ahead and
I think that's just part of growth, right? Like we brought all these staff, like our crew grew, And so they were doing all these things. So we're in our minds, we should also be also doing those things, not realizing that the stuff that was consistent had maybe gotten stale, but new strategies and add-ons was.
So I had a good connection with Trevor. I just felt comfortable with him. And I still remember him mentioning one thing that was interesting. I thought that was like admirable. And I still think about it. And he probably doesn't even know that I still remember this one kind of thing he said, which was, man, I want my staff to have a great life. I want them to be able to support and do whatever they got to do in their life. And that's why I do what I do, is so I can have the people on my team also take care of what they have to do. And I think that was like him thinking outside of for himself and more for his team and the greater good of whatever he's trying to do. And I thought that was important. And a lot of entrepreneurs I meet are not like that. So I still kind of like take that into consideration of even the way I should be, and like, why I'm doing sometimes some things. And I'm like, man, this is definitely not worth it. But everybody in my team gets to eat, and that's good. And that's good enough for me, So sometimes that's the win, even if there's no extra win at the end of the week. That might be the win, and that's good, So I think that's something that was trusting him and feeling confident, and then seeing he walks the walk that he talks. So I wanted to follow that, Like
Who
there's a
doesn't
few
live in
people I'm like,
Omaha?
man, you should call my accountant. He could help you. I just if you know something works, it's like if you ask me what's the best Mediterranean restaurant, I'll tell you it's Rumi's. And that's a fact. So it's
Good.
just, if you know something's great, it's great. That's it is what it is.
And I think the misconception, a lot of people, for us, like our friends or colleagues or in the business, are like, oh, well, I don't know if I can afford him, or like, I don't know, I'm like, you won't know what your needs are until you actually connect. There might be different, much like us. We started out as just needing bare minimum basic tax prep. And I don't know that anyone knows what you need until you actually start unfolding the layers.